Aren't you glad that he came to your rescue? I was thinking about that song, and part of it says, "In my life be lifted high, and my love be lifted high, and my world be lifted high." And that just kind of is right where I've been at this week. At the beginning of the year, one of the things that kept coming across over and over again through different ministries was being real and being right and being the righteousness of God. And that just kept going over and over in me. And thinking about this week, I was reminded of a clip from a TV program. I don't know if many of y'all like those investigative NCIS, CSI. I like to know who done it. Sorry, Anyway, in one of those shows, it was about bringing down a counterfeit group or a counterfeit ring. And one of the investigators asked the expert, how is it that you become an expert at that? Do you study all the different counterfeits? Do you study different things? Because they had some counterfeits and they were going to give it to these experts to study. And no, we don't study the counterfeits. We just study the real thing. We study it till we know every detail. And anyway, in that this week, I had two things that happened that just kind of drove that point home with me real strong. And being, are we real, or are we genuine, or are we the generic? Are we a fake? And that is, the first one was a young man at work came in, and he was telling me about he was doing a devotional for a youth meeting, and they're getting ready to go on a youth revival, and his job is this devotion is to get everybody ready to receive. And he starts telling me, and it sounds a whole lot like a video on YouTube from this church. Just happened to be one of my exhortations. And anyway, I told him, I said, go ahead, but keep telling me about it, because I said, if you're gonna use my stuff, you get it right. And then the other thing that happened, though, was in the storms. My mom had called me and told me that my sister-in-law was telling her that she had gotten real nervous in the storms, when they were in North Alabama. And my little nephew looks up at her and says, "Well, Mommy, I'm just going to talk to God about it." Now, yeah, I'm thrilled with those two things, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not thrilled with the fact that that's out of the norm. That should be my everyday. That shouldn't be once in a while. There are many verses that tell us over and over again that we should be an example. Because truthfully, every one of us is a leader. You might be the pastor leading the congregation. You might be a Sunday school teacher leading a class. You might be a school teacher leading a classroom. You may be a mom leading children, or you may be an aunt or an uncle just leading niece and nephews. But either way, you're still leading somebody. In Ephesians 5:1 and 2, Paul wrote, to follow God's example in everything you do, because you are his dear children. Live a life filled with love for others, following the example of Christ, who loved you and gave himself as a sacrifice to take away your sin. In 1 Corinthians 4:16, so I ask you to follow my example and do as I do. I think the way that the King James Version reads right there is, follow me as I follow Christ. 1 Timothy 4:12, don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you teach, in the way you live, the way you love, your faith, and in purity. Titus 2:7 and 8, let everything you do reflect the integrity, seriousness of your teaching. Let your teaching be so correct that it can't be criticized, and those who want to argue will be ashamed because they won't have anything bad to say. And there's lots more. You can just do a word study on follow, and you'll get all kinds of good stuff. But the thing with that is, though, is we should be an example, and we should be so much like Christ that people can follow our example and not tell the difference. They should look at us and say, I can learn how to follow Christ because I'm going to follow them. So if you would join me with this confession this morning. I am genuine. I'm authentic. I am the real deal. I'm not a generic or a counterfeit. I am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. Because I'm genuine, I am a living example of Jesus Christ in my world. I am an example in what I teach, the way I live, the way I love, the way I walk out my faith, and the way I live in purity.